Open your eyes, be wide awake. Sit up and listen to Tuesday's tape.
Yes, sit up and listen to the Tuesday tape. For the first song, you really need a horse. Use your rocking horse, or, if Mummy lets you, a broom to pretend you are riding across the countryside.
A-hunting we will go, a-hunting we will go. We'll catch a fox in the box and then we'll let him go. Oh, a-hunting we will go, a-hunting we will go. We'll catch a fox in the box and then we'll let him go.
Did you ride across any farms while you were on your horse? Joan is going to read some poems about some creatures you might have seen.
The big brown hen and Mrs. Duck went walking out together. They talked about all sorts of things, the farmyard and the weather. But all I heard was cluck, cluck, cluck and quack, quack, quack from Mrs. Duck. I saw a donkey 1 day old. His head was too big for his neck to hold. His legs were shaky and long and loose. They rocked and staggered and weren't much use. He tried to gambol and frisk a bit, but he wasn't quite sure of the trick of it. His queer little coat was soft and grey and curled at his neck in a lovely way. His face was wistful and left no doubt that he felt life needed some thinking about. So he blundered around in a venturesome quest, and then lay flat on the ground to rest. He looked so little and weak and slim, I prayed the world might be good to him. Slowly, slowly, very slowly, creeps the garden snail. Slowly, slowly, very slowly, up the wooden rail. Quickly, quickly, very quickly, runs the little mouse. Quickly, quickly, very quickly, round about the house.
And still on the farm, here is Patrick with a song.
Oats, peas, beans and barley grow. This is a children's singing game. Now circle around someone in the middle, the farmer, suiting gestures to words. At the third verse, the farmer chooses a partner, and at the fourth verse, they both kneel and salute. Oats and beans and barley grow, oats, peas, beans and barley grow. Do you or I or anyone know how oats, peas, beans and barley grow? Thus the farmer sows his seed, stands erect and takes his ease, stamps his foot and claps his hands and turns around to view his lands, waiting for a partner, waiting for a partner. Open the ring and take her in while we all gaily dance and sing. Now your marriage you must obey, you must be true to all you say, you must be kind, you must be good, and make your husband chop the wood.
Sit up and clap to this song, or if you're not too tired, try tippy-toeing with Betty Martin.
Hey Betty Martin, tippy-toe, tippy-toe. Hey Betty Martin, tiptoe fine. Hey Betty Martin, tippy-toe, tippy-toe. Hey Betty Martin, please be mine. Skip with me, I'll skip with you. We'll go skipping the whole day through. Skip so fine, skipping, skipping all the time. Hey Betty Martin, tippy-toe, tippy-toe. Hey Betty Martin, tiptoe fine. Hey Betty Betty Martin, tippy-toe, tippy-toe. Hey, Betty Martin, please be mine. Run with me, I'll run with you. We'll go running the whole day through. Run so fine, running, running all the time. Hey, Betty Martin, tippy-toe, tippy-toe. Hey, Betty Martin, tiptoe fine. Hey, Betty Martin, tippy-toe, tippy-toe. Hey, Betty Martin, please be mine. Hop with me, I'll hop with you. We'll go hopping the whole day through. Hop so fine, hopping, hopping all the time. Hey, Betty Martin, tippy-toe, tippy-toe. Hey, Betty Martin, tiptoe fine. Hey, Betty Martin, tippy-toe, tippy-toe. Hey, Betty Martin, please be mine.
This is a song about a little clock in a schoolroom. I wonder if it's like the clock at your school. There's a neat little clock in the schoolroom it stands, and it points to the time with its two little hands. And may we, like the clock, keep a face clean and bright, with hands ever ready to do what is right. There's a neat little clock in the schoolroom it stands, and it points to the time with its two little hands. And may we, like the clock, keep a face clean and bright, with hands ever ready to do what is right. And may we, like the clock, keep a face clean and bright, with hands ever ready to do what is right. This next song tells of the strange adventures of Zebedee, Zince.
Zebedee Zince climbed up to the sink to row his boat to sea. He rowed and he rowed, he rowed and he rowed, and didn't get back for tea. Soon he rowed up to Uncle Ben's cup, then steered round baby's mug. He rowed and he rowed, he rowed and he rowed, and pulled out the giant plug. Zebedee Zince rowed away from the sink, so fast it made him laugh. He rowed and he rowed, he rowed and he rowed, to Aunt Hermione's bath. Hermione ran the little boat span, and hit a crocodile. He rowed and he rowed, he rowed and he rowed, and reached the river Nile. He rowed a mile along the Nile, his arms began to ache. He rowed and he rowed, he rowed and he rowed, then his boat began to shake. Zebedee Zince was starting to think he'd never reach the sea. He rowed and he rowed, he rowed and he rowed, and dreamed of cakes and tea. When he reached Rome, he rode to a phone to speak to Mum and Dad. He rode and he rode, he rode and he rode, feeling lonely and sad. Back at the sink, Zebedee Zince, I'm pleased I'm home, he said. He rode and he rode, he rode and he rode, straight up the stairs to bed.
I had a little nut tree, nothing would it bear, but a silver nutmeg and a golden pear. The King of Spain's daughter came to visit me, and all for the sake of my little nut tree. I had a little nut tree, nothing would it bear, but a silver nutmeg and a golden pear. The King of Spain's daughter came to visit me, and all for the sake of my little nut tree.
And now two poems. One is about Simple Simon, and the other is about Miss Polly. Simple Simon met a pieman going to the fair. Says Simple Simon to the pieman, "Pray, let me taste your ware." Says the pieman to Simple Simon, "Show me first your penny." Says Simple Simon to the pieman, Indeed, I have not any.
This is a rhyme about Miss Polly and her dolly and the doctor. Miss Polly had a dolly who was sick, sick, sick. She phoned for the doctor to be quick, quick, quick. The doctor came with his bag and his hat, and he rapped on the door with a rat-tat-tat. He looked at the dolly, and he shook his head. Then he said, Miss Polly, put her straight to bed. He wrote on a paper for a pill, pill, pill. I'll be back in the morning with my bill, bill, bill.
There was a man who had a horse-a-lum, had a horse-a-lum, had a horse-a-lum. Was a man who had a horse-a-lum down in Demerara. And here we sit like birds in the wilderness, birds in the wilderness, birds in the wilderness. Here we sit like birds in the wilderness down in Demerara. Now that poor horse, he fell a sick-a-lum, fell a sick-a-lum, fell a sick-a-lum. That poor horse, he fell a sick-a-lum down in Demerara. And here we sit like birds in the wilderness, birds in the wilderness, birds in the wilderness. Here we sit like birds in the wilderness down in Demerara. Now that poor man, he sent for a doctorum, sent for a doctorum, sent for a doctorum. That poor man, he sent for a doctorum down in Demerara. And here we sit like birds in the wilderness, birds in the wilderness, birds in the wilderness. Here we sit like birds in the wilderness down in Demerara. Now that poor horse, he went and died-a-lum, went and died-a-lum, went and died-a-lum. That poor horse, he went and died-a-lum down in Demerara. And here we sit like birds in the wilderness, birds in the wilderness, birds in the wilderness. Here we sit like birds in the wilderness down in Demerara. And here we sits and flaps our wings-a-lum, flaps our wings-a-lum, flaps our wings-a-lum. Here we sits and flaps our wings-a-lum down in Demerara. And here we sits like birds in the wilderness, birds in the wilderness, birds in the wilderness. Here we sits like birds in the wilderness down in Demerara.
Keep your eyes open, stay wide awake. Don't forget side 2 of the tape.
Three blind mice, see how they run, see how they run. They all run after the farmer's wife who cut off their tails with a carving knife. Did you ever see such a thing in your life as three blind mice? Did you ever see such a thing in your life as three blind mice? See how they run, see how they run. They all run after the farmer's wife who cut off their tails with a carving knife. Did you ever see such a thing in your life as three blind mice? Did you ever see such a thing in your life as three blind mice? See how they run, see how they run. They all run after the farmer's wife who cut off their tails with a carving knife. Did you ever see such a thing in your life as three blind mice?
Did you ever see such a thing in your life as three blind mice?
I'm a little Dutch girl, Dutch girl, Dutch girl. I'm a little Dutch girl far across the sea.
I'm a little Dutch boy, Dutch boy, Dutch boy. I'm a little Dutch boy far across the sea.
Go away, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. Go away, I hate you far across the sea.
Why do you hate me, hate me, hate me? Why do you hate me far across the sea?
'Cause you stole my necklace, my necklace, my necklace. 'Cause you stole my necklace.
your necklace, necklace, necklace. Here is your necklace far across the sea.
This is the wrong one, the wrong one, the wrong one. This is the wrong one, far across the sea.
Here is the right one, right one, right one. Here is the right one far across the sea. Now we're getting married, married, married. Now we're getting married far across the sea. Now we've got a baby, baby, baby. Now we've got a baby far across the sea. Now we're getting older, older, older. Now we're getting older far across the sea. Now we are dead, dead, dead. Now we are dead far across the sea. Now we're up in heaven, heaven, heaven. Now we're up in heaven far across the sea.
This is the story of Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who lived with her mother on the edge of the forest. One long cold winter, her mother made her a warm red cape with a hood, and from that day on, everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. Every day, Little Red Riding Hood used to walk through the forest to visit her grandmother. One day, Little Red Riding Hood's mother called her and said, "Come here, Little Red Riding Hood. Take this cake and bottle of wine to grandmother. She is ill, and they will do her good." Little Red Riding Hood put on her red cape and set off to her grandmother's. Before she had gone very far into the forest, she met a wolf. She had never seen a wolf before, so she was not a bit afraid of the animal. "Good morning, Little Red Riding Hood," said the wolf. "Good morning, sir," she answered. "Where are you going this fine morning?" asked the wolf. "To my grandmother's," she replied. "What have you got in your basket?" "A cake and some wine. My grandmother is ill, and I'm taking them to her to help her get better." "And where does your grandmother live, Little Red Riding Hood?" "A good quarter of an hour farther into the wood. Her house stands under 3 big oak trees near a hedge of nut trees," said Little Red Riding Hood. "What luck," thought the wolf. "If I am clever, I should be able to eat both Red Riding Hood and the old grandmother. Why don't you stop and pick your grandmother a posy of pretty flowers? I'm sure she would like that." So Red Riding Hood spent a long time collecting flowers for her grandmother. In the meantime, the wolf went straight to the grandmother's cottage and knocked at the door. "Who is there?" cried the grandmother. "Little Red Riding Hood," called the wolf. "I have a cake and some wine for you." "Come in, dear, the door is open." The wolf went straight in, and when the grandmother saw him, she jumped out of bed and locked herself in the cupboard. The wolf was very angry because he knew he did not have much time before Red Riding Hood arrived. He decided to dress up like grandmother and get into her bed. He put on a nightdress and a nightcap which he pulled down over his long ears. He drew the curtains to make the room darker and got into bed. A few minutes later, Red Riding Hood arrived. She was very surprised to see the door wide open, and when she went into the room, everything seemed very strange. She went up to her grandmother and looked at her. "Oh, grandmother, what big ears you have," she said. "All the better to hear you with," the wolf replied. "Oh, grandmother, what big eyes you have." "All the better to see you with, my dear." "And what big hands you have, grandmother." "All the better to catch you with, my dear." "But, grandmother, what big teeth you have." "All the better to eat you with, my dear." With these words, the wolf jumped out of bed, and when Red Riding Hood saw who it really was, she rushed out of the open door, calling for help. She was very lucky, because there was a woodcutter working nearby. When he heard Red Riding Hood's screams, he ran to help. With one almighty blow of his axe, he killed the big bad wolf. "Oh, woodcutter," cried Red Riding Hood, "I'm so frightened. I think the wolf must have eaten my grandmother. Whatever shall we do?" "Come inside the cottage," said the woodcutter. "I'm sure your grandmother is safe." When they got inside, Red Riding Hood called, "Grandmother, where are you?" Red Riding Hood and the woodcutter could just hear a muffled voice calling, "Here I am." Red Riding Hood pulled open the cupboard door to find her grandmother very frightened but quite safe. Little Red Riding Hood and the woodcutter put grandmother back into bed. They gave her some cake and some wine, and soon she was sitting up and feeling much better. How happy they all were that things turned out so well. When Little Red Riding Hood got back home, she promised never to talk to strangers in the forest again.
Now for 3 poems from Joan and Colin.
My grandmother said, "Now isn't it queer that boys must whistle and girls must sing? But that's how it is," I heard her say, "the same tomorrow as yesterday." Grandmother said, when I asked her why, girls couldn't whistle the same as I, "Son, you know it's a natural thing. Boys just whistle and girls just sing."
Ride a cock horse to Banbury Cross to see what Tommy can buy. A penny white loaf, a penny white cake, and a 2-penny apple pie.
A farmer went trotting upon his grey mare, bumpety bumpety bump, with his daughter behind him so rosy and fair, lumpety lumpety lump. A magpie cried, "Caw!" and they all tumbled down, bumpety bumpety bump. The mare broke her knees and the farmer his crown, lumpety lumpety lump. The mischievous magpie flew laughing away, bumpety bumpety bump, and vowed he would serve them the same the next day, lumpety lumpety lump.
This is a song to remind you to brush your teeth every day. Brush your teeth, brush them every day. Once in the morning and once at night, they'll stay clean that way. Clean your teeth, clean them every day. Once in the morning and once at night, the plaque must stay away. Up, down, inside and out. Up, down, inside and out. Up, down, inside and out. Brush your teeth, brush them every day. You must keep them clean and bright, fight against decay. Up, down, inside and out. 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 Brush your teeth, brush them every day. Once in the morning and once at night, they'll stay clean that way. Clean that way. Tuesday is over, tomorrow is near. Have your tape ready when Wednesday is here.